One of my favorite books is Nick Offerman's Paddle Your Own Canoe. It's both entertaining and inspiring. In one chapter entitled Get a Hobby, or Discipline, same difference, Nick emphasizes the importance of, you guessed it, getting or developing a hobby. Find something that you love to do and do it. Allow your knowledge to grow in that area. If it's your jam, play it full blast. Think about something that you love to make or something that really piques your interest. Next time you talk about it with somebody, be it knitting, writing script, or staining glass, pay attention to your excitement, your enthusiasm. You'll light up like Times Square during New Year's Eve. While going through the chapter, Nick goes on to say that what keeps us from doing what we love is the constant distractions from our smartphones. Now, granted, they are wonderful devices that have benefited us immensely, especially in light of recent circumstances with self-quarantine in place. However, it feeds into our weird quirk that we think that things could be better for us somewhere else. Now, we have the little windows in our pockets that will show us somewhere else, and we can distract ourselves. It fills in the lulls of our day with nothing but constant scrolling. When you add up the time spent just idly scrolling through, you'll realize that you could spend that time reading a book, mapping stars, or even talking to the people standing right in front of you. Now, this part of the book really stuck with me because I've noticed it too. Ever look around in a restaurant and see entire tables all just looking down on their phones? Zombies, right? There's our golden phrase, there's never enough time in the day. Yes, there is. Perhaps try limiting your scroll time and looking up. There's always an urge to live in the moment. And we're living in the moment, but with our heads down. So I suggest putting your phone in your pocket, being present, and interacting with what's around you. We haven't always been like this. It's only been a short amount of time. Think back even 5 or 10 years. What were we doing before we had phones glued to our hands? Remember reading a newspaper or a magazine? Remember talking about trivia with your friends for hours because you couldn't be sure who was wrong or right? Speaking of friends, you used to know their numbers by heart. You used to know your number by heart. You went to local restaurants to see who had the best burgers or salads, and you did that yourself. You weren't going by Foodie054's review from Yelp. And when you were there at that local restaurant, you didn't check your phone 20 times during that meal. People didn't even know what a phantom vibration was. But these days, our phones go off and we need to check it in 0.54 seconds just in case. Only to find out that it was just your emails updating. So what do? Why do we have this constant need to scroll up and down, go through the trending sections of Instagram and Twitter? Like I mentioned earlier, our phones are windows to give us views into other areas. We're bored with our current areas because there's nothing to do. It's just so unsatisfying. But we'll get back to that later. In an article from Computers in Human Behavior, a study was done to look into potential smartphone addiction in adults of different genders. Unfortunately, the research in the determinants of smartphone addiction still remains scarce, and with that, the role of individual characteristics, such as gender, in the formation of the addiction is far from clear. One interesting note, however, is that when we engage in social media and our smartphones, this releases a chemical called dopamine into our system, which explains the sudden excitement when we feel our phones go off. That's why we go back and check the likes on our posts and see who views our stories. But the thing about dopamine is that it's the same chemical that releases when we smoke or drink or gamble, aka it's highly addictive. Now let's take a break on ourselves and let's check on the kids. Let's think about the effects that this may also play on children. As I mentioned earlier, this phenomenon has only been around for about 10 years or so. Children were born into this. They don't remember sitting in a waiting room or picking up a magazine. We're so busy with work, with things around the house, or even scrolling, that we've just given our kids our iPads or an old phone and There's mommy's little helper to keep the kids entertained with Disney Plus or YouTube. What does this teach them? It teaches them that this is the way. This is what we do. Science Direct published an article about the effects of high exposure to smartphones on children from the ages of 3 to 5 and on their behavior. In the study, the parents of 400 children between that age were surveyed with the questionnaire on the usage of smartphones, their children's behavior, the temperaments, and their social and language development. 84.6% of the children were using smartphones. 74.2% started using mobile medias before the age of 2. Now, it's not like 2-year-olds were tweeting out, but watching videos or what have you. Moving up towards older ages, who wants to read or even go outside when they're using their phones to turn to social media or what have you, which ultimately just acts as a filler? Scrolling through robs them of being able to use their imagination with free play. When a child plays outside, it's not just physical play. They're also socially and emotionally involved in it as well. They're allowed to make their own decisions. Which way do I kick this ball? Where do I run when I'm playing tag? Aimlessly scrolling through their phones robs them of deeper cognitive behavior development. So what can we do? Smartphones are here and embedded into our culture. With so much convenience that they bring, they're essential in our everyday lives, which is why I've only been mentioning the aimless act of scrolling through it. Nobody ever takes hours running through their bank app or paying their bills. They complete their task, then do something else. They're not evil smartphones that have come to take over our lives. Think back to a time when you felt you didn't have enough time to do something. Pick up a book or do that project. Do that first, and you'll feel much better about yourself. It's no secret that accomplishing a task is one of the most rewarding feelings. Remember when I mentioned being bored with your area? Well, let's think about it. Why are you bored? Because you're just sitting on the couch, scrolling through, killing time? There it is. Turn off your phone, or better yet, bring up Google. Type in things to do in whichever city you live in, and you'll find links that list things to do in your area. I guarantee you're bound to come across a few things that will pique your interest. So go do them. Explore. Experience. At the very least, go take a walk around your neighborhood and enjoy some time outside.